Joe, we are back in Newport Beach for episode 16 of season 2, The Blaze of Glory, or as I've decided to call it, The Deaning of Alex.
Wow. I really hope that the Gilmore guys listen to us one day. At least Kevin, Demi might just say, nah, man, too cool.
But we'll get there. But my God, the OC has no ability to just let two people in a relationship part in a normal way. They always have to find a way to villainize whoever's not part of the core four amongst these teenagers. And it's half the time it goes against everything that we know about this character up until this point. And man, is that a driving force of this episode, which I must say now, really like this episode despite all of those problems, because it's just dumb. It's a dumb, fun episode to me. But let's dive into it. Seth Cohen. All right, I'm actually going to read this note verbatim. Seth Cohen is confident that everything is back to the way it was last year, which does not say much for character development since he's mostly correct.
I feel like there must have been a long break a long rest in between, because it was a lot of the cold open exposition of last year was last year. Time is moving by so quickly. What the heck? Why? What are we doing?
It's insane. The things that are happening are insane. So Seth is back with Summer. So he's convinced that he has to get Ryan and Marissa back together so that everything goes back to the way it was last year. So that's the storyline we've got going with them. Sandy turns out to be obsessed with Carter, who is the guy Kirsten's working with, and it's kind of like a will she, won't she with this Carter guy.
Yeah.
And the fact, I love that Sandy is obsessed with Carter, and that is the only thing I love about this stupid storyline. It is such a waste of everything. Everything.
Yeah. Why are we doing it? Why? What are we talking about? Why are we doing this?
No. Yeah. None of it makes sense. Carter is a fucking douchebag. It's not even I could maybe understand being interested in Rebecca, but Carter, the second that Carter's just drunkenly listening to the Pixies in the middle of the afternoon, I'm just this is who you might leave Sandy Cohen for, Kirsten.
Yeah. Kirsten, you dumb bitch.
Yeah, what are you talking about? It's insane. Thankfully, not much happens with that plot line in this episode. It's literally that Carter bails on a meeting. Kirsten confronts him. Sandy mentions that he was a writer in one of his absolute favorite magazines in college. And Kirsten asks to borrow one of those magazines to put in Carter's mailbox to kind of remind him that he used to give a shit.
He was a good man once.
Yeah, you were once good. That's all. We can just move right past that subplot for the rest of this episode, because that's all that really happens there. This episode is way more focused on the teens.
Yes.
And we'll dive into that, but we do have
Alex. God, I missed that.
We do have to talk about Julie Cooper, though.
Julie Cooper Nickel right now?
Yep. Sorry. Julie Cooper Nickel. So she does say that she shot the porn in the 80s. I did some quick research. The Bourne Identity was published in 1980. I still don't believe that they would have made a porn parody based on a obscure sci-fi novel, but whatever.
Yeah.
I guess that plot hole isn't as gaping as I thought it was.
Not gaping. It means
a gaping plot hole in this porn subplot.
It means something different for homos, but you knew exactly what was going on. So
nope, I caught on. And while all this is happening, she hires Sandy to kind of go and confront Lance and figure out what Lance wants or needs. And essentially what it comes down to is Sandy's we will buy this off of you.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we get at this point. And
Daddy Cohen throwing around the monies.
Yep, Daddy Cohen saying we will take care of this. My favorite line actually comes from Julie Cooper in this, though. So Julie Cooper is trying to call Marissa to get Marissa to move back in.
Mm-hmm.
And Marissa hangs up on her, and she goes, "She's such a little me," which is a fantastic line. And I will say that after Julie and Sandy have a conversation, and Sandy tells her, sometimes it's not the message that's the problem, it's the messenger.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes and she works with Ryan. That was probably the first moment I truly saw some of the humanity that you see in Julie Cooper.
I'm telling you, she's not all bad.
I will say that it is very bizarre knowing for a fact that Marissa does not make it to season 4, listening to all these conversations about we have to do this. We have to save Marissa from the path that she's on.
From her future.
From her future. I'm like, uh-oh.
Dying. Like,
yeah. She ain't graduating.
Yeah.
But
here, so on that note, right? Like how it kind of also... See, this is why, like, sometimes I really don't mind spoilers, and sometimes I really do. But in this instance, I think that, like, it kind of, you have to have a good mindset about it, because if this entire time, and from season 1, where, like, Marissa has her OD experience, right? From, like, season 1, it's the whole thing is Julie Cooper trying to protect her daughter from making bad decisions, and in some cases really being concerned that her daughter's gonna fucking die, right? So then we know that she dies she dies somewhere in season 3, doesn't make it to season 4, and at that point it's like, how does that affect Julie, right? For you, I'm saying this more for you, Matt, as a framing device for as we continue on. How does this affect Julie, knowing that, like, she did fail?
Yeah. Let me ask you a couple questions, Joe.
Okay.
And I'm asking these well ahead of time. This is going to be the most that we openly discuss a known spoiler for me.
Sure.
But I'm very curious. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be a multi-layered question here.
Okay. Listening.
Now, if I understand correctly, the killing off of Marissa had a lot more to do with Misha Barton than it did with that being the storyline,
sure.
Right? Like So here's my question: if that is true, do you think that Marissa dying was always somewhere in the end game of the OC, regardless?
Oh no.
Like, you don't think that was going to be maybe the final episode was like. Okay, so you think this was 100% fuck, we need to get rid of this actress, so we're just going to kill the character.
I think that, like, I think they did it because they knew that they could, given how gag-worthy the season finale of 2 is, which is also kind of a spoiler. Yeah,
I know about that thanks to the Lonely Island.
Yeah, so... You know, again, it's kind of gag worthy because of that. And so it makes sense. It's also kind of a, you know, from a like writer standpoint or an ego standpoint, how can we top ourselves from the previous finale? And so I honestly think that at the very least, they were endgame until they weren't. Like, they were going to be endgame until they weren't. But for all intents and purposes, I actually like how Ryan ends up, how Ryan's story wraps up in the series finale.
Okay.
Which doesn't, I'm sure obviously
that
doesn't include Marissa. So
yeah. Well, you know, that could be a spoiler. Maybe maybe I was thinking him and the ghost hook up or something.
Yeah, that's a series wrap.
So let's jump into the Seth and all of the children here. So Seth decides to convince Marissa that Ryan should be the person to help with this homecoming or this pep rally bonfire. And his reasonings are he was a construction worker doing honest to goodness labor, and he burned down a house once before.
He knows how to burn things down.
Yeah, I have to give a genuine shout out to Adam Brody on a perfect acting performance at Seth attempting to look intimidating. Marissa says, "This is actually a really good idea. Thank you, Seth." And he says, "Don't mention it. Seriously, especially to Summer." And then he tries to make an intimidating face, and it's such a fail. And it is the beautiful work of Adam Brody truly knowing how much of a loser Seth Cohen truly is that he can't pull off intimidating. It made me laugh so hard. Marissa accidentally spills the beans a little bit talking to Summer with another line that I laughed at where she tells Summer, "Can you tell Seth not to call me Coop ever again? He kind of ruined the nickname for me." I just love how much Seth is just nothing. But Marissa and Ryan sit down. They plan out how they're going to do this bonfire. And this is when Alex stakes out the house, essentially, and throws a beer can at Ryan and gets all up in his face. And she is so unhinged. And it does not, for 1 second, match the cool, calm, collected, like borderline no strings attached attitude of Alex all the way up until this point. It is so infuriating. And for those of you who don't know what we're saying, if you're listening to this podcast and you've never listened to the Gilmore Guys, in the first season, we meet a character named Dean. And Dean is, by all intents and purposes, the perfect boyfriend for our main character of Rory Gilmore until they decided that it was time for there to be a different boyfriend. And then within a season, all of the traits that you associate it with Dean completely change. Where you first meet him, he's this well-read, like bookish, like kind of laid back dude. Now he's like this overly jealous, never reads, like borderline illiterate doofus.
He's not going to college, so he's dumb.
Yeah, and so they coined on the show, Gilmore Guys, the deaning of something. Whenever they take a character and just like completely change them for the purposes of moving the plot along. And this episode is just 40 minutes of them deaning Alex to get her to break up with Marissa so that like we're supposed to feel fine about it. It's so strange, and it's like it almost feels rushed. Like there was literally the last episode we were talking about how over Marissa's bullshit Alex seemed just when it came to like conversations about rent and plans and like all of that other stuff. Like there was already like a natural way that you could just have Alex break up with Marissa because Marissa is an irresponsible bad girlfriend.
Yeah.
But I guess
because Marissa is Marissa.
Because Marissa's Marissa. But I guess in their writers' minds, it's like, no, Marissa can never actually be the reason for the breakup. And thus, we must actually make Alex be the person that everyone's like, boo, break up with her, Marissa. Like, I can, and maybe it's just by being 38 and watching and like just being able to see the strings on all the puppets at this point, but it's just it bums me out because this episode, besides that, is really fun and goofy. There's so many funny lines. When they're setting up for this bonfire, I love that Ryan yells out, "Dude with the gas cans, move away from the fire. What's wrong with you?" Like, it feels like such a loose, fun episode, which is usually the case whenever it's like, we've got to organize this thing at the school. Like, those episodes are always so loose and fun. But every single time Alex showed up, I was just bummed because I like Alex and this isn't fucking Alex.
No, it's not. Considering how like swiftly they're trying to get rid of her. Like, it's so irrational. Because they make her out to be this like cool figure the entire series up to now, but like, and the way that I can see the justification for the change is the fact when she goes to Seth and she's like, I've never I've fallen really hard for this girl.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh yeah. So, And I mean, I've definitely been there when you fall hard from someone and then you like all reason kind of goes out the door. It kind of looks like this a little bit.
Yeah.
But again, like,
but this is
we can't.
Ryan. Like, this isn't like a total stranger. Like, she went on a date with Ryan at one point.
Yeah.
Let us not forget, beginning of this season, they went on a terrible first date together and have continued to be friendly. He kept her lesbian girlfriend a secret for a little bit. Like, there's no reason to... She knows Ryan well enough to know that he's not doing anything nefarious. And that's like what becomes really frustrating.
91 Donkey Lane is a magical apartment complex that contains immense power, but lacks intelligent inhabitants.
What is happening?
I'm getting texts.
Why are we getting a lot of texts?
People found out what we did.
Oh, dividing Mike Myers into an infinite amount of tiny Mike Myers?
Listen to 91 Donkey Lane for free on Spotify or your favorite podcasting app. More at 91donkeylane.com. See you there, you donkeys.
Let's talk about some music, Joe.
This
episode had a shit ton of music, actually. It kicks off with the song Meantime by the Future Heads. When Marissa finally asks Ryan for his help, Brandon Benson's What I'm Looking For starts playing. When Kirsten shows up at Carter's house, he's blasting Debaser by the Pixies. When Sandy goes to meet up with Lance, he's blasting the Scorpions' Rock Me Like a Hurricane. When Alex first tries to fight Ryan, AFK's Pinback is playing. When Alex and Cooper finally break up, Joseph Arthur's A Smile That Explodes is playing. And finally, when Cooper and Ryan light the fire, Feeder's Frequency is playing to end out the episode. Joe, if you ask me, there's only one option in this, and it is Rock You Like a Hurricane blasting out of Lance's hotel room when Sandy Cohen walks up to the front door.
See, I initially was going to go with the Pixies song just because, like, that whole scene, besides the deaning of Alex makes no freaking sense at all.
Yeah.
Especially because it's like, he was, like, when the assistant in the previous scene was like, he was slurring.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, this doesn't really make sense. And then you have, but then immediately after, Rock You Like a Hurricane. So yeah, you're like, it's totally the song because it's so unexpected. It's
so unexpected. And Joe, spoiler alert for next week, we probably won't do this segment next week because I guess they spent so much money on Rock You Like a Hurricane. There's a single song in next week's episode.
Yeah.
like they no expenses spared to get that Scorpion song in the background of that scene. Man, it's been a while since we've agreed on the song of the episode. And now the final segment, pop culture promo, baby. What is something that is popping in pop culture that you want to talk about?
Well, first, I think this is the first episode that we're able to address it. The writer's strike is over.
Writer's strike is over. Actor's strike is still happening at the time of this recording. Probably will still be happening at the time of this release, but all things that I've heard seem to be that it's looking good. Like, I think it's looking like that's wrapping up soon. Yeah. So I feel confident, especially with how much we front load a lot of the time, that we can probably safely assume that by like the next couple episodes that things will be done. So
we'll see. We'll see.
Hopefully, fingers crossed. I mean, I'm not sure if you read what the writers got with that deal, but they got everything.
Yeah.
It was basically everything. So if they're willing to play ball with that, and I think the actors are actually asking for a lot less in most terms, the actor strike is almost exclusively about, hey, like,
AI,
don't AI my face onto shit
without me knowing about it. So I'm hoping that will be a much easier conclusion, but who knows? I won't put it past any studios, but I will promote some things from studios regardless, because I've been holding on this one since July when the writer's strike first hit. Across the Spider-Verse might be the best film of the year. It is phenomenal. It doesn't
feel like a 2.5-hour cartoon, which is a huge compliment in my mind.
Sure.
And it's great. And that's all I'm going to say about it. Most of you have probably already seen it. I don't think that this is new information. I also haven't seen the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, which I'm told is the only thing that's a competitor for the best movie of the year against Spider-Verse. Because, man, these like CGI or is it claymation weird animated movies are just always home runs in my eyes.
Yeah.
Mitchell's versus the Machines is still gunning for my favorite film of the entire 2020s. So we'll see.
All of that to say, right? Thank goodness for the writers. I'm really excited about something. As we're recording this, we're in the middle of the spooky season. And so I got so flipping excited, Matt, for the trailer for Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
By
that dropped.
Eli Roth. Because
I'll tell you my first complaint, why not just re-release the fake trailer from fucking Grindhouse? Because you already had my money. I didn't need to see what the actual movie was going to look like.
No, yeah, sure. So it's like it looks fun. Like it's probably going to be awful, but it looks like a lot of fun.
I haven't watched it yet just because we haven't, this is coming out in October. I haven't watched it yet, but everybody that I know is saying that Totally Killer is like incredible.
Really?
Have you seen the trailers for that?
No, that's the Kiernan Shipka one, right?
Yeah, where she time travels into a 90s slasher film, essentially.
Oh, no. I've not seen that one.
Apparently, I've seen like 7 different people be like 10 out of 10. This is what like a good slasher movie is all about. Like everyone's comparing it to some of my favorites of the last couple of years. Like it's got that Happy Death Day Final Girls vibe.
Sure.
So I am all on board. That's definitely going to be something I'm going to try to watch in the coming weeks, as we are, as you said, in the spookiest of spooky seasons. Well, that was really short. You know what? I'm going to throw one more thing out there because I think that this album deserves so much more attention than it's gotten this year. Did you know Kesha put out an album this year?
Yeah, it's the one where she looks like she's getting suffocated.
Yeah, Gag Order.
Yeah, but I've not listened to it.
It's amazing, Joe. And like, I don't know where I would rank it amongst the Kesha albums in general. Mm-hmm. This was produced by Rick Rubin, and I was reading about Kesha talking about working with Rick Rubin. She said Rick Rubin sat her down and was just like, stop trying to write singles, just write what you're feeling. And this is like easily as personal as Rainbow is, if not more, and really kind of starts to dabble into like a lot more of like that art pop sound. Like I would say like it almost feels more like a Melanie Martinez record at points than Kesha, where it's just like sparse, creepy instrumentals and her just singing very softly. And like, it's a fucking fantastic album. And I feel like nobody has talked about it since it came out. I had to order it online. I went to like 4 different record stores and no one had it in stock. So go listen to this new Kesha album. It's phenomenal. It's great. It's easily my favorite album of the year. I'm also a diehard Kesha fan, so I might be slightly biased, but whatever. I would say this episode didn't go out in a blaze of glory for sure. Much like the Wicker Man, this kind of went out with a whipper, but we will be back next week, and things are looking pretty grim next week as we enter into season 2, episode 17, The Brothers Grimm.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.